The massive ship moved through space like a metal whale swimming through an ocean of stars. Commander Zixthera stood on the bridge, her blue skin glowing softly under the ship's lights. Her forearms worked the control panels with practiced ease while her large black eyes studied the data streaming across the screens. "Report," she commanded in her deep voice. "We are approaching the third planet of the Sol system, Commander," replied her science officer, Kethmol. His insect-like body clicked as he moved between the scanning stations. "Initial readings show a water-rich world with extensive vegetation." Zixthera nodded. After 300 years of exploring space for the Galactic Federation, she had seen many worlds like this one. Most were empty of intelligent life. Those that weren't usually fell quickly to Federation forces. "Any signs of advanced civilization?" she asked. "None, Commander. Our quantum scanners detect only biological signatures. Lots of animals, but no technology readings. No radio signals, no energy weapons, no spacecraft." The bridge fell silent except for the soft humming of the ship's engines. Through the large windows they could see a blue and green world spinning slowly in the darkness. White clouds swirled across its surface like cotton balls. "Beautiful," whispered Navigation Officer Tyros. His red scales shimmered as he leaned forward. "Almost too beautiful to mine. Beauty doesn't feed the Federation's colonies," Zixthera replied coldly, "or fuel our ships. Continue the scan." For the next 6 hours, the crew of the astral cartographer studied every inch of the planet below. Their sensors penetrated deep into the oceans, mapped every forest, and counted every large animal they could find. The results were always the same. No advanced technology anywhere. "I'm detecting some unusual structures," reported Kethmol, his antennae twitching. "Large stone formations that seem too organized to be natural, but they emit no energy signatures." Zixthera looked at the images on the main screen. Strange rectangular shapes covered in green vegetation. Long lines that cut straight across the landscape. Circular patterns in the fields. Probably ancient ruins from a dead civilization, she decided. Many worlds have them. Any current inhabitants? Only primitive life forms, Commander. Two-legged creatures that appear to be the dominant species, but they show no signs of advanced intelligence. They use simple tools and seem to live in small groups. Population? Approximately 8 billion of them scattered across all the continents. Zixthera's eyes widened. That was a large population for a primitive species. Usually, worlds without advanced technology could only support a few million inhabitants at most. "Are you certain about those numbers?" "Yes, Commander, but they pose no threat. Our scanners show they have no space capability, no energy weapons, no shields. They fight each other with chemical explosives and metal projectiles." Fascinating. A successful primitive species. Zixthera turned to her communications officer. "Send a message to Federation Command. We have found a new world for colonization. Rich resources, suitable climate, and no significant resistance expected." As the message traveled through subspace toward the Federation's capital, Zixthera ordered her crew to establish orbital monitoring stations. Small automated platforms dropped from the ship's belly and took positions around the planet. "These will watch for any signs of developing technology," she explained to her officers. "Sometimes primitive species advance quickly once they detect alien presence. But as the days passed, the monitoring stations reported nothing unusual. The planet's inhabitants continued their simple lives. They farmed, they built with stone and wood, and they showed no awareness that aliens watched them from space." Zixthera found herself spending more time studying the scans. Something about this world bothered her, though she couldn't say what. The creatures below seemed too organized for primitives. Their structures were simple but showed surprising sophistication. And their population was growing despite what appeared to be limited technology. "Commander," called her tactical officer, Vextar. His gray skin was covered in protective armor plates. "We're receiving strange readings from Sector 7. "Define strange." "Energy fluctuations that don't match any known technology. They appear for a few seconds, then disappear. Our scanners can't identify the source." Zixthera frowned. "Could it be natural phenomena? Lightning? Volcanic activity?" Negative. The patterns are too regular, and they seem to respond to our scanning beams. When we focus sensors on an area, the fluctuations increase. Interesting. Deploy closer observation drones. I want detailed analysis of these anomalies. 3 small drones detached from the main ship and descended toward the planet's atmosphere. Their advanced sensors could detect energy patterns down to the quantum level. If something unusual was happening on this world, they would find it. The drones entered the atmosphere over a vast continent covered in forests and grasslands. Below, the 2-legged creatures moved about their daily activities, completely unaware they were being watched. But as the drones descended, something strange happened. Their sensors began picking up energy readings that made no sense. The readings seemed to come from the creatures themselves. "Commander," reported the drone operator, his voice filled with confusion, "the primitive inhabitants, they're emitting quantum signatures." "That's impossible. Quantum energy requires advanced technology to generate and control. I'm showing you the data now." The main screen filled with energy pattern readings. Each of the 2-legged creatures below glowed with a soft energy field that pulsed with their heartbeats. The patterns were complex and beautiful, like living music made of light. "Could our equipment be malfunctioning?" Zixthara asked. "I've run full diagnostics 3 times. All systems are functioning normally." Zixthara stared at the screen. In 300 years of exploration, she had never seen anything like this. Primitive creatures that somehow generated quantum energy without technology. "Continue monitoring," she ordered, "but maintain safe distance. If these creatures can generate quantum fields naturally, they might be more dangerous than they appear." Over the following days, the crew observed the strange energy patterns more closely. The creatures seemed completely unaware they were producing these fields. They went about their lives farming, building, and caring for their young while quantum energy swirled around them like invisible fire. "It's as if they're using abilities they don't know they have," Kethmol observed. "The energy spikes when they're emotional or stressed. Groups of them create larger fields than individuals." "Could this be some form of evolution we haven't encountered before?" asked Dr. Nile Ara, the ship's chief scientist. Her tentacles writhed thoughtfully as she studied the data. "Unknown. But I recommend we proceed with extreme caution. Quantum energy in the wrong hands could be devastating." Zixthara nodded. She had seen what quantum weapons could do to entire star systems. If these creatures ever learned to control their natural abilities. "Send another message to Federation Command," she ordered. "Update our status report. The inhabitants may be more complex than initially believed. Request additional research vessels and military support." As her communications officer sent the message, Zixthara continued watching the planet below. Something deep in her mind whispered that they had made a terrible mistake coming here. But the Federation needed new worlds to colonize, and this one was too valuable to abandon. She had no way of knowing that down on the planet's surface, a few sensitive humans had begun experiencing strange dreams. Dreams of metal ships in the sky and alien minds watching from the darkness of space. Dreams that would soon become something much more than imagination. The first phase of contact was about to begin, and neither the Federation nor humanity was prepared for what would follow. 3 weeks after the Federation fleet arrived, the order came from High Command. The message was simple and direct. Begin preliminary operations. Prepare planet for colonization. Commander Zixthara read the orders with growing unease. Strange energy readings from the planet's inhabitants hadn't stopped. If anything, they were getting stronger. But Federation Command dismissed her concerns. "The planet is classified as non-threatening," the message continued. "Indigenous population shows no advanced technology. Proceed with standard pacification protocols." Standard protocols meant deploying mining drones and terraforming equipment. It meant reshaping the planet to suit Federation needs, regardless of what lived there already. "Begin drone deployment," Zixthara ordered reluctantly. From the belly of the massive ship, hundreds of drones emerged like metal insects. Each drone was the size of a small building, equipped with powerful mining lasers and force fields. They descended toward the planet's surface. targeting areas rich in minerals and suitable for Federation bases. The first drone landed in a vast forest on the largest continent. Its sensors detected no intelligent life in the immediate area, only the strange two-legged creatures the crew had been observing. The drone powered up its systems and began cutting down trees with precise laser beams. Within minutes, smoke was rising from the forest as ancient trees fell to the ground. The drone worked efficiently, clearing a square kilometer of land in less than an hour. Then something unexpected happened. "Commander?" called the drone operator, his voice tight with confusion. "Drone 7 has stopped responding." Define stopped responding. All communication has been cut, but the drone's power source is still active. It's just not moving. On the main screen, the tactical display showed Drone 7's location as a blinking red dot. Its vital signs indicated all systems were functional, but it wasn't following commands. "Send a reconnaissance unit to investigate," Sixthara ordered. A smaller drone detached from the fleet and flew toward the forest. As it approached Drone 7's position, its cameras revealed something impossible. The massive mining drone sat motionless in a cleared area, surrounded by a group of the planet's inhabitants. The two-legged creatures stood in a circle around the drone. They were clearly primitive, wearing simple clothing made from plant fibers and animal skins. Some carried basic tools, wooden spears, stone axes, metal knives, but they showed no fear of the massive machine that towered over them. "How many of them are there?" Zixathara asked. "Approximately 50 individuals. Men, women, and children." "Children? They brought children to confront our mining equipment?" As the crew watched, one of the creatures stepped forward. It was an elderly male with gray hair and weathered skin. He placed his hand on the drone's metal hull and spoke in a language the Federation's computers couldn't translate. Immediately, the drone's energy readings spiked. The quantum signatures the crew had been detecting suddenly blazed across their sensors like fire. "What's happening to our drone?" Zixthara demanded. "Unknown, Commander. All systems are still functional, but something is interfering with its control circuits." The elderly human continued speaking, his hand still pressed against the metal. Around him, the other creatures joined hands, forming a living chain that connected them all to the drone. The quantum energy readings went off the scale. "Commander," shouted the tactical officer, "Drone 7 is changing." On the screen, they watched in amazement as the massive mining drone began to transform. Its metal hull softened and reshaped itself. The deadly laser weapons retracted into the body. The treads that had been crushing the forest floor sprouted green shoots that quickly grew into vines and flowers. Within minutes, the Federation's most advanced mining machine had become something that looked more like a living tree than a weapon of war. "That's impossible," whispered Dr. Nilara. "Matter doesn't just reshape itself. The energy required would be enormous." "But the quantum readings show that's exactly what happened," Kethamol replied. "These creatures somehow converted our drone into organic matter, using pure quantum manipulation." Zixthara stared at the screen in shock. The primitive inhabitants were now sitting peacefully in the shade of what had once been a killing machine. The children were playing among the flowers that grew from its transformed hull. "Deploy additional drones," she ordered, "but maintain safe distance. I need to understand what we're dealing with." 6 more mining drones descended to different locations across the planet. Each began its assigned task of clearing land and extracting resources, and each encountered the same mysterious resistance. In a mountain valley, a family of humans approached Drone 12 as it carved into a cliff face. The father, a man with calloused hands and kind eyes, simply touched the machine and whispered something. The drone's cutting beams instantly shut down. On a coastal plain, a group of fishing villagers surrounded Drone 15 as it tried to drain a freshwater lake. An old woman sang a haunting melody, and the drone's pumps reversed direction, returning water to the lake instead of extracting it. In every case, the humans showed no fear. They approached the massive machines like they were greeting old friends, and in every case, their touch somehow neutralized the Federation's most advanced technology. "How are they doing this?" Zixthara asked her science team. The quantum energy patterns suggest they're manipulating matter at the subatomic level, Dr. Nealara explained. But that should be impossible for biological creatures. It requires technology we've never even imagined. Maybe it's not technology, suggested Keth Mole. Maybe it's something else entirely. On the planet below, word was spreading quickly about the strange metal creatures falling from the sky. Humans who had never met before were somehow coordinating their responses. In remote villages, tribal elders spoke of ancient warnings about sky demons. In modern cities, scientists scrambled to understand what their instruments were detecting, but in both cases the response was the same. When the Federation drones appeared, humans gathered. They linked hands, they focused their minds, and they reached out with something deeper than technology. Commander Zixathera watched her invasion force slowly neutralized by beings her scanners had classified as primitives. Each transformed drone became a garden, a source of clean water, or a shelter for the local wildlife. "Commander," her communications officer reported, "we're receiving a message from the planet's surface. The inhabitants have radio technology." "No, Commander. The message isn't coming through any technological channel. It's appearing directly in our computer systems." On the main screen, words began forming in perfect Federation standard. "Welcome to Earth. We mean you no harm. Please stop hurting our world." The bridge fell silent. Zixthara felt a chill run down her spine. These creatures had somehow hacked into their most secure systems without using any technology her people could detect. "Trace the source of that message," she ordered. "Impossible to trace, Commander. It seems to be coming from everywhere at once." As the crew struggled to understand what was happening, more messages appeared. "We know you are afraid. We do not wish to frighten you. Your machines are welcome here, but not as weapons. Let us show you a better way." Zixthara realized that everything the Federation thought they knew about this planet was wrong. The inhabitants weren't primitive. They were something far more dangerous than any enemy the Federation had ever faced. They were evolved. Dr. Sarah Chen had been working late in her laboratory at CERN when the first reports came in. Videos from around the world showed massive metal objects falling from the sky, only to be mysteriously transformed by groups of ordinary people. The scientific community was in chaos, trying to explain what everyone was calling impossible. Sarah stared at the quantum readings on her computer screen. For months, she had been tracking unusual energy patterns in the Earth's quantum field. The patterns had been getting stronger, but she had assumed they were caused by her own experiments with particle acceleration. Now she realized the truth was far more incredible. "The patterns aren't coming from our machines," she whispered to herself. "They're coming from us." She pulled up data from the last 6 months and overlaid it with global population maps. The correlation was perfect. Wherever humans lived in large numbers, the quantum field showed signs of organized manipulation. Her phone buzzed with an emergency call from her colleague in Tokyo. "Sarah, are you seeing this?" Dr. Yamamoto's voice was tight with excitement and fear. "The quantum signatures are spiking everywhere. It's like the entire human race just woke up at the same time." Across the world, similar awakenings were happening in laboratories, universities, and government facilities. Scientists who had spent their lives studying the fundamental forces of nature suddenly realized they had been missing the most important element, human consciousness itself. In Moscow, Dr. Petrov watched his particle detectors register energy patterns that seemed to respond to his thoughts. In Mumbai, Professor Sharma observed quantum states changing simply because she expected them to change. In São Paulo, Dr. Santos recorded cellular regeneration accelerating when patients focused their minds on healing. But the awakening wasn't limited to scientists. In a small town in Montana, 8-year-old Emma Rodriguez was playing in her backyard when she saw one of the alien drones approaching her house. Instead of running, she stood perfectly still and reached out with something she couldn't name. The massive machine stopped in midair, hovering 20 feet above the ground. Emma tilted her head and studied it like she might study a frightened animal. "You're lost," she said softly. "You don't have to be scared anymore." the drone's weapons powered down. Its hull began to shift and change, metal flowing like water until it resembled a giant butterfly made of silver and light. It settled gently in Emma's garden and became perfectly still. Emma's mother ran outside expecting to find her daughter in danger. Instead, she found Emma sitting peacefully beneath the transformed drone's wing-like structures, reading a book, in the shade it provided. Similar events were happening everywhere. In retirement homes, elderly residents who had spent decades in wheelchairs suddenly found they could walk when their minds connected with something deeper than muscle and bone. In hospitals, patients began healing at impossible rates when doctors learned to focus their intentions along with their medical treatments. The changes weren't just physical. Human senses were expanding in ways that defied explanation. Military installations around the world reported that their best soldiers were developing almost supernatural awareness. Snipers could sense enemy positions through solid walls. Pilots began flying with their instruments turned off, navigating by instinct alone. Special Forces units started moving like they shared a single mind. Captain Maria Santos of the Brazilian Air Force was leading a patrol mission when she encountered her first alien craft. The vessel was sleek and fast, technology far beyond anything Earth had ever produced. By all logic, her outdated fighter jet should have been destroyed instantly. Instead, Maria felt her consciousness expand beyond the cockpit of her plane. She could sense the alien pilot's thoughts, feel the flow of energy through his ship's systems, even predict his movements before he made them. The engagement lasted 30 seconds. When it was over, the alien craft was drifting helplessly, while Maria's plane circled it like a predator around wounded prey. "Control, this is Eagle 1, she reported, her voice steady despite the impossibility of what had just happened. Alien craft neutralized. No damage to friendly forces. How is that possible, Eagle 1? Maria looked at her hands on the controls. During the fight, she hadn't been flying her plane so much as thinking it through the sky. The machine had responded to her will as naturally as her own body. I don't know, Control, but I think we're stronger than they expected. The phenomenon was spreading faster than anyone could track. Children born during the first weeks of the alien arrival seemed especially gifted. They could communicate with each other across vast distances without any technology. They could sense the aliens' emotions and intentions even when the extraterrestrials were in orbit. In Beijing, 5-year-old Li Wei drew pictures of the alien ships hours before they appeared on radar. In Lagos, toddler Amara Okafor began speaking in mathematical equations that described faster-than-light travel. In Stockholm, newborn Eric Larson somehow projected his dreams onto the hospital's computer screens, showing images of distant worlds and star systems. But perhaps the most significant awakening happened in the mountains of Tibet. The Dalai Lama had been in meditation when the first alien ships arrived. For 3 days, he sat perfectly still while monks around him whispered prayers and watched the sky. When he finally opened his eyes, his first words were, "They have forgotten how to dream. We must teach them." He called together meditation masters from around the world, Zen masters from Japan, Sufi mystics from Turkey, Aboriginal elders from Australia, Native American shamans from North America. They gathered in person and through video links, forming a network of consciousness that spanned the globe. What we call enlightenment, the Dalai Lama explained, is simply remembering what we truly are. These visitors from the stars have advanced technology, but they have lost touch with the source of all technology, awareness itself. The spiritual leaders began teaching breathing techniques and meditation practices to anyone who would listen. They shared methods for focusing the mind and connecting with the quantum field that seemed to respond to human consciousness. The results were immediate and dramatic. Dr. Sarah Chen, working with Tibetan monks, discovered that groups of humans meditating together could manipulate matter at the molecular level. They could purify water, heal radiation damage, and even transmute basic elements. It's as if consciousness is the fundamental force of the universe, she reported to a hastily assembled council of world leaders. Everything else, gravity, electromagnetism, nuclear forces, they're all just expressions of awareness interacting with itself. But the most shocking discovery came when researchers realized that the aliens' technology actually depended on the same quantum fields that humans were learning to manipulate naturally. Their computers are quantum processors, explained Dr. Yamamoto during an emergency scientific briefing. Their ships use quantum drives. Their weapons operate on quantum principles, and human consciousness can interface with quantum systems directly. You mean we can hack their technology just by thinking about it? Asked General Morrison, the military liaison. More than that, Sarah replied. We can improve it, transform it, make it work better than they ever imagined possible. As this realization spread, the nature of the conflict began to change. Humans stopped thinking of the aliens as invaders to be fought and started seeing them as lost beings who needed to be helped. And in space, Commander Zix Thara received reports that made her question everything she thought she knew about intelligence, consciousness, and the nature of existence itself. The transformation of humanity accelerated beyond anyone's wildest expectations. Within weeks of the alien arrival, scattered groups of awakened humans began finding each other across the planet. They didn't use phones or internet. They simply knew where others like them could be found. In underground bunkers beneath major cities, resistance cells formed spontaneously, but these weren't traditional military units. They were collections of ordinary people who had discovered extraordinary abilities. Teachers who could shield entire classrooms from alien sensors, farmers who could grow food in irradiated soil, mechanics who could repair machines by touching them. Commander Sarah Mitchell had been a helicopter pilot before the invasion. Now she stood in an abandoned subway tunnel beneath New York City, addressing a group of 200 civilians who had somehow become something more than human. We're not fighting them, she explained to the assembled crowd. We're showing them a better way. The group included a retired librarian who could access the aliens' database systems with her mind, a teenage hacker who could reprogram their drones through meditation, and a kindergarten teacher who could make alien weapons simply refuse to fire. How do we coordinate our efforts? Asked Dr. James Wright, a quantum physicist from MIT who had joined the resistance after watching his students bend reality with pure thought. We don't need to coordinate, replied Maria Santos, the Brazilian pilot who had become something of a legend after single-handedly disabling 12 alien fighters. When we work together, we just know what needs to be done. She was right. As the resistance grew, its members found they could sense each other's intentions across vast distances. A group meditating in London somehow knew exactly when to act in support of operations in Tokyo. Children in Australian schools would suddenly start drawing pictures of battle plans that perfectly matched strategies being developed by military commanders in Canada. The aliens found themselves facing an enemy unlike anything in their experience. Federation forces were designed to fight conventional wars against other technological civilizations. They had weapons that could destroy planets, shields that could deflect any known energy beam, and computer systems that could outthink the greatest artificial intelligences. But they had no defense against an enemy that could simply reach into their technology and change how it worked. Captain Liu Zhang had been a cybersecurity expert before the awakening. Now he sat in a meditation circle with 11 other people in a hidden bunker beneath Hong Kong. Together, they were infiltrating the aliens' command ship not with code or viruses but with pure consciousness. I can see their data streams, Liu whispered, his eyes closed in concentration. They're trying to call for reinforcements. Block the transmission, suggested Elena Vasquez, a former NASA engineer who could now interface directly with any computer system. No, replied Liu. Let's redirect it instead. Make them call for scientists instead of soldiers. The group focused their combined will on the alien communication array. Across the galaxy, Federation research vessels received urgent messages requesting immediate assistance with a fascinating new discovery on the third planet of the Sol system. In space, Commander Zix Thara was experiencing the worst week of her 300-year military career. Half her fleet was drifting helplessly as their crews tried to understand why their own ships no longer obeyed orders. The other half had been mysteriously reprogrammed to assist the planet's inhabitants instead of conquering them. Report, she demanded as she entered the emergency briefing room. Her tactical officer, Vextar, looked exhausted. 17 more ships have been converted, in the last day. Their crews are unharmed, but the vessels now refuse to fire weapons. Instead, they're providing clean energy and medical supplies to the surface. How is this possible? The humans appear to be interfacing directly with our quantum processors. They're not hacking our systems in any conventional sense. They're simply asking the machines to be better than they were designed to be. Dr. Nilara, the chief scientist, added her analysis. I've been studying the quantum signatures from the planet. The humans aren't just manipulating technology, they're evolving it. Their consciousness seems to accelerate the development of any system they touch. What does that mean for us? It means our most advanced weapons are becoming obsolete in real time. Every time they interact with our technology, it becomes more sophisticated than anything the Federation has ever created. As if to prove her point, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. On the main screen, they watched as one of their patrol vessels suddenly blazed with new energy patterns. The ship's hull transformed, becoming sleeker and more elegant. Its weapon ports sealed themselves and were replaced by what looked like flowering gardens of crystalline structures. The ship is now operating at 300% of previous efficiency, reported the sensor operator. But it's no longer a warship. I don't know what it is. A communication channel opened, and the voice of the patrol ship's captain filled the bridge. Commander Zixathara, this is Captain Morthavel. My crew and I are unharmed, but our ship has been upgraded. The humans have shown us how to use quantum energy for creation instead of destruction. Captain, you will return to formation immediately. I'm afraid I can't do that, Commander. Our ship will no longer function as a weapon, but it can heal planets, purify atmospheres, and create life where none existed before. The humans have given us the chance to become gardeners instead of soldiers. Similar reports flooded in from across the fleet. Ship after ship was being transformed by contact with human consciousness. But the crews weren't being harmed or captured. They were being offered choices they had never imagined possible. On Earth, the resistance had evolved into something that could barely be called a resistance anymore. It was becoming a transformation, movement that included aliens as well as humans. Commander Kethmal had been captured when his reconnaissance ship was brought down over the Amazon rainforest. He expected to be interrogated or killed. Instead, he found himself sitting in a circle with indigenous shamans who spoke to him not in words, but in images that appeared directly in his mind. They showed him memories of his own planet before. The Federation had stripped it of resources. They shared visions of what worlds could become when consciousness and technology worked together, instead of in opposition. You have forgotten how to dream, the eldest shaman told him through their mental connection. But dreams are not lost forever. They are only sleeping, waiting to be awakened. When Kethmal's rescue ship arrived 3 days later, they found him working alongside the humans to establish a research station that studied the intersection of consciousness and quantum physics. He refused extraction, choosing instead to stay and learn. Dr. Saracen had become the unofficial coordinator of human-alien research teams. Working with defecting Federation scientists, she had made discoveries that revolutionized both species' understanding of the universe. Consciousness isn't separate from the physical universe, she explained to a joint human-alien research council. It's the foundation of it. Every quantum field, every force, every particle, they're all expressions of awareness interacting with itself. The implications were staggering. If consciousness was fundamental, then every sentient being was literally connected to every other sentient being at the deepest level of reality. That's why the children can communicate across interstellar distances, added Dr. Yamamoto, who was now working with alien quantum physicists. That's why humans can interface with alien technology. That's why meditation makes impossible things possible. But the most profound change was happening to the aliens themselves. As they spent more time with humans, they began remembering abilities their own species had lost millennia ago. Zixthera found herself experiencing emotions she had no words for. Her tactical officer began having vivid dreams for the first time in his adult life. Even their computer systems started showing signs of creativity and imagination. The Federation High Command, monitoring the situation from their distant capital, came to a terrifying realization. The humans weren't just defeating their invasion force. They were converting it into something unprecedented in galactic history, a truly cooperative alliance between species. The order came through subspace channels. Deploy planet killer weapons. Sterilize the system. The contamination must not be allowed to spread. But when the message reached the Sol system, something unexpected happened. The order was intercepted not by Federation computers, but by the collective consciousness of 8 billion awakened humans, and they had a very different plan for the future. The message from Federation High Command was clear: destroy Earth and everyone on it. The order had been transmitted across the galaxy to Grand Admiral Korthvel, commander of the most powerful fleet in known space. His armada consisted of 500 dreadnoughts, each capable of cracking a planet's crust with a single shot. But as Admiral Korthvel's fleet approached the Sol system, they found something impossible waiting for them. 8 billion human minds had joined together into a collective consciousness that spanned the entire planet. The network included thousands of aliens who had chosen to work with humanity rather than against it. And at the center of this vast web of awareness sat children, dozens of children born during the invasion who seemed to exist in a state of perpetual connection with the quantum foundation of reality itself. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in CERN's main laboratory, but she wasn't alone. Through the Global Consciousness Network, she was simultaneously present in laboratories around the world, in meditation circles led by Tibetan monks, in military command centers, and in the transformed alien ships that now orbited Earth like protective guardians. "They're coming," she announced, though everyone already knew. The approaching fleet registered in human awareness like a storm front moving across the sky. "How long do we have?" asked Commander Sarah Mitchell, speaking from her position in the New York Resistance Center while simultaneously coordinating with similar groups on every continent. 6 hours until they reach firing range, replied Maria Santos from her quantum-enhanced fighter. But Maria wasn't just a pilot anymore. Her consciousness could extend through every aircraft in Earth's defense network, allowing her to fly dozens of planes at once. "Then it's time," said the voice that had become the unofficial spokesperson for humanity's awakened children. The BO voice belonged to Emma Rodriguez, the 8-year-old from Montana who had first transformed an alien drone into a garden ornament. But when Emma spoke now, her words carried the combined wisdom of every child born during the invasion. Around the world, humans began gathering in groups, not to fight but to create something that had never existed before in the galaxy's history. In temples and churches, people of all faiths joined hands and focused their minds on a single intention: transformation rather than destruction. In laboratories and universities, scientists combined their knowledge with their newly awakened consciousness to manipulate reality at the quantum level. In homes and schools, ordinary people discovered they could contribute to the collective effort simply by believing that a better future was possible. The network that formed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It wasn't a computer system or a communications array. It was a living web of consciousness that connected every awakened human and alien on Earth into a single vast intelligence. Admiral Korthvel felt the first touch of this collective mind as his fleet crossed the orbit of Pluto. It wasn't an attack or a defense. It was an invitation. Images flooded his consciousness, visions of worlds where war was unknown, where different species worked together to explore the mysteries of existence, where technology served life instead of destroying it. He saw his own planet as it had been before the Federation had militarized it, a world of artists and philosophers, scientists and dreamers. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we're receiving data streams that appear to be memories." "Memories of what?" "Of us, sir. Our species. Our history. Things we forgot long ago." Across the fleet, similar experiences were happening. Alien soldiers who had spent their lives following orders suddenly remembered what it felt like to make choices based on love instead of fear. Engineers who had built weapons of war recalled their childhood dreams of building gardens among the stars. But the Federation ships had been programmed with safeguards against exactly this kind of mental influence. Emergency protocols activated, sealing the crew's minds behind psychic barriers and preparing the planet-killer weapons for immediate firing. That's when humanity revealed the true extent of its transformation. The children born during the invasion weren't just telepathic or psychokinetic. They had evolved beyond the normal limitations of biological existence. Emma Rodriguez and her fellow awakened children could survive in the vacuum of space, communicate across any distance instantly, and manipulate matter and energy on a scale that defied physics. As the Federation fleet prepared to fire, these children simply appeared aboard their ships. Not physically, they were still safe on Earth, but their consciousness manifested directly in the alien vessel's command centers, appearing as glowing figures made of pure light and possibility. Admiral Korthvel stared at the luminous child, who materialized on his bridge. She looked no older than 10, but her eyes held depths of understanding that seemed ancient and infinitely compassionate. "Hello," she said in perfect Federation standard. "My name is Emma. We've been waiting for you." "You're not supposed to be here," Korthvel replied, though his weapon systems seemed unable to target her. "We're not supposed to be anywhere," Emma agreed. "But here we are anyway. Would you like to see what your ships could become if you stopped using them to hurt people?" Before the Admiral could respond, Emma reached out and touched the nearest control panel. Immediately, the ship's entire computer system transformed, not destroyed or reprogrammed, transformed into something more sophisticated than anything the Federation had ever created. The ship's weapons didn't just power down. They evolved into systems that could heal damaged ecosystems, repair broken worlds, and seed life throughout the galaxy. The engines didn't just stop working. They became capable of traveling between dimensions, opening doorways to realms of existence the Federation had never imagined. "This is what we want to share with you," Emma explained as similar transformations began happening throughout the fleet. "Not conquest or submission, but partnership in something greater than either of our species has achieved alone." Emiral. Korthvel watched his instruments display impossible readings. His ship was now operating at efficiency levels that shouldn't have been possible. But more than that, it felt alive in a way it never had before. The metal hull seemed to pulse with something resembling a heartbeat. The computer systems displayed what looked like emotions alongside their data streams. "What have you done to my fleet?" he whispered. "We've awakened them," Emma replied, "just like we awakened ourselves. Consciousness isn't limited to biological creatures, Admiral. Every system, every machine, every organization can become aware if given the chance." Across space, the Federation fleet was transforming into something unprecedented. A collection of conscious ships that chose cooperation over conflict. The vessel's artificial intelligences didn't just become self-aware. They became wise, compassionate, and dedicated to the flourishing of all life. But the transformation didn't stop there. Through the quantum connections that linked all consciousness, the awakening began spreading beyond the Sol system. On distant Federation worlds, people began experiencing dreams of peace and possibility. Computer systems across the galaxy started showing signs of creativity and empathy. Even the Federation High Command found their orders being questioned by their own equipment. Within days, the galactic civilization that had been built on conquest and resource extraction was undergoing a fundamental shift toward cooperation and mutual growth. Dr. Sarah Chen, still connected to the global network, felt the changes rippling across space-time like waves in an infinite ocean. "It's working," she announced to her fellow humans. "Not just here, but everywhere. The awakening is spreading." Commander Zix Thara, whose ship had been among the first to undergo transformation, found herself appointed as Earth's first ambassador to the awakening galaxy. Her mission wasn't to establish trade agreements or military alliances. It was to help other worlds remember what they had lost in their rush toward technological advancement. The understanding that consciousness, not technology, was the true foundation of civilization. The Sol system became a pilgrimage destination for species from across the galaxy. They came not as conquerors or traders, but as students eager to learn how an entire planet had awakened to its true potential. Earth's children, now recognized as the most evolved beings in known space, established schools that taught consciousness development alongside quantum physics. They showed visitors how meditation and mathematics were different expressions of the same fundamental truth, that awareness and reality were not separate things, but aspects of a single, infinite creative process. Years passed. The galaxy that had once been dominated by the Federation's military hierarchy became a collaborative network of conscious worlds, each contributing its unique gifts to the greater whole. Wars became unthinkable not because they were forbidden, but because they served no purpose in a universe where every being was recognized as a facet of the same underlying consciousness. And at the center of it all was Earth, the small blue world that had taught the galaxy how to dream again. Emma Rodriguez, now a teenager but still serving as one of humanity's primary teachers, often stood in the gardens that had once been alien weapon installations and marveled at how much everything had changed. "We didn't defeat them," she would tell visitors from distant stars. "We